Okay, so you said you had a dream about what?
About Jesus revealing to me about the hell and resurrection.
Okay, so
So I
it was.
remember my first dream was I was at front of Heaven's Gate, and there was an angel standing right there waiting for me. And he looked at me and he said, "Follow me. I need to show you something." And then I remember following him and going into a gold elevator. But before I went in there, I looked to my right and I seen a stairway
Mhm.
um, from heaven all the way down to earth, and there was a bunch of angels just going up and down
Mhm.
with paperwork in their hands. They looked busy.
Mhm.
So when I went in the elevator, I remember it closing, and then we went down in 2 seconds. And when it opened, I remember just smelling rotting flesh, and it was dim. And when I went in there, I remember just people just screaming,
Yeah.
and I remember also people falling from the sky, going all the way into the pit of fire, and their skin was melting, and I could see their bones, and they're just clawing at their face, and pulling their hair, and
That the demons were.
oh, it looked like hell looked like a cave. So people were um, in chains,
Mhm.
like from this like the ceiling of hell,
Mhm.
and the demons were just torturing them, cutting off their limbs, and it kept growing back and cutting off their heads. It's just endless torture. Keep their limbs keep regrowing back. And then when I was standing next to Angel, I didn't have no fear, but I remember I just felt like sadness for them, for the people getting tortured in hell. And I remember also they looked at me because they seen I wasn't getting tortured, and they're just pulling out their hands saying like, help me, save me. And and then I heard a booming laughter, and I looked up and I seen the devil. He was walking with a smirk on his face, and he had like hooves and horns. He was red and disformed. He had kind of like chicken feathers on him, and he looked satisfied with what he did to bring. Oh, and he had his arms behind his back, um, like satisfied that he brought people there into hell. So, and then the angel looked at me and he said, "It's time to go." And I remember just blinking my eyes, and I woke up from my dream. So
That's good. And then you said that then you had another dream like the next day or something.
3 days later.
3 days
So
later.
I remember
And what was your next dream?
my next dream was I remember um, I remember seeing Jesus. Uh,
That's beautiful.
um,
How did he look?
he, he had uh, he had a white robe
Mhm.
with a gold sash,
Mhm.
and he had a light radiating off him,
Mhm.
and I seen his holes on his hand and his feet, and I remember him looking at me like I was the most precious thing to him.
It's okay. It's beautiful. And what happened? What happened?
Then he said, I'm showing you this because I want you to warn my children about that I'm coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
So they could um go with me to heaven in the glory.
What did he say about people though, like when they cry and stuff like that?
And he said when people don't think I'm there listening to them, I'm always next to them listening. When they cry, I'm crying with them. When I'm happy with you. When I'm angry with you. And
He said that's what he died on the cross for.
oh yeah. And he said, is this what I died on the cross for? So people just could go to hell? Why wouldn't you want to go into the glory with me? All this beauty, He says, you guys are so precious to me. For example, he said like a diamond. You know how people think that's so rare and special and precious? He said, you guys are like that to me, but way more. You guys mean something to me. And
He touched your head.
oh yeah, he patted my head and said, that I love you. I love you, my child. And
Then he.
and then I closed my eyes, and I was transported into the resurrection time.
What were you doing? Like just walking?
And so, I remember just walking on the sidewalk, and it was morning, and everyone was doing their usual thing like a normal day, and so, and I remember Jesus saying, I'm gonna come like a thief, that you will never know when I'm coming. So, and I remember, just hearing a horn blown, and I looked up, and there was an angel right there. He had armor on, and he blew the horn, and then everyone just looked up, because they're saying, what was that sound? Where did it come from? And then right when he blew it, the moon turned blood red, and oh yeah, the earth was shaking, and people started going up who believed in him, and who oh yeah, and also their clothes were getting off of them because it's part of this world. It's not holy. So and right after the people got taken, it started going crazy. The earth started cracking, and people started going crazy because they knew that what was happening. And I remember it turned dark and the stars were falling, and
then
there was like meteors started falling also, and there was like big huge bugs flying and like attacking people. And then I remember, and cars started crashing, people started screaming and pulling their hair and ripping their clothes, and I remember seeing 2 kids, and they're crying. They looked like 5 or 6 years old, and I remember just bringing them into this building. But before I went in, I remember seeing Jesus's face, and everyone just fell to their knees because they knew he was King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and I remember just going into the building, and the kids were crying. I was comforting them, saying, it's okay. And and I remember just blinking, and it transported me to the judging area. It's like a okay, sorry. I was transported to the judging area, and it was just white. It was endless, and I remember seeing a huge line of people. They're like whispering to each other, like, "What's happening? What's happening?" And like, am I gonna be next? Like, where am I going? And I remember seeing in front of me Jesus on his throne, his gold throne, and he had a crown on. It was a big crown with gems on it, and it was gold. And right next to him was an angel with the book of life in his hands. And this one boy, I remember, was on his knees and crying because he's like, Jesus, Jesus, please forgive me. And then Jesus looked at a boy, and then he looked at the angel next to him. He says, "Is his name in there?" And then the angel just obeyed Jesus and was looking into the pages, and he said to Jesus, "His name is not in the book of life." And the boy he looked up, and he started going hysterical, crying. And he says, "Don't you know me? Don't you know me?" And Jesus said, "Son, I never knew you. I don't know who you are." And he says, "I'm gonna show you where and when you went wrong." And he showed me a screen of all his life from when he was born all the way to the resurrection time. And he showed me when he was a baby, when he was a kid, blowing out his candles, innocent, and then he showed me where he went rebellious. He was fighting with his parents, doing drugs, going to parties, and all that. And he stopped the video. He says, "I warned you many times. I showed you signs. I sent people to warn you." He says, "That's where you went wrong." And he says, and he opened the gates of hell. And he says, "Depart from me." Oh yeah, he says, I remember him saying, "Depart from me, you wicked evildoer. Go to the hell with the devil and his angels." And so he threw him into the pits of flame and closed. And people were scooting back because they felt the heat, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there." And then I just seen people just going into the pit of fire, millions. I didn't see a single one go into heaven. He just kept saying, "Depart from me, depart from me, depart from me." And then him opening the gates of hell, and them just going in and closing. And then I remember seeing a lady. She looked in her 30s or 40s, and he asked the angel next to him, is her name in the book of life?" And the angel said, "Yes, her name's in the book of life." And then Jesus started smiling and said, "Welcome home." And the gates of heaven opened, and it was so bright, brighter than the sun. And she went in, and I heard laughter, joy, and it closed. And then I remember just blinking my eyes again, and I went to Jesus was gonna fight with the Antichrist. And I remember just going back to Earth, and I remember it was chaos on Earth. I just seen fire. I just seen fire.
There was giants or something?
Oh, there was giants. There was giants, dinosaurs. The giants were hitting people and eating them and stomping on them and crushing them into buildings. And there was dinosaurs eating them up, people screaming. And I remember standing next to a tree, and I remember looking in front of me, and there was Jesus, and his armor with a cross on it, and his sword held up, and I seen his eyes, and they look like he was gonna win. And I remember seeing behind him thousands, billions of angels, ready for war, and they had the same armor on. And I seen people in front of Jesus on their knees, just begging and praying, and that's where my dream stopped.